All right, guys, now that most of the 2025 half-ton truck segment vehicles have been released as far as details you can build on the websites, and most of the information is on fueleconomy.gov just to see where the advertised fuel economy numbers are going to stand. I now want to do a head-to-head of the big four. So we're talking the Chevrolet Silverado 1500 versus the Ram 1500 versus the Ford F-150, and I'm including the Toyota Tundra also. What I'm going to do, because there's so many different nuances behind these different brands, and these manufacturers are not dumb. They try not to go head to head on all these different trucks so they can create little differences for pricing and performance. But I'm going to do my best at what I'm going to say is two steps above a work truck. I'm going to spend this whole video comparing XLT-ish, Bighorn-ish, Chevrolet Silverado level LT, and Toyota Tundra SR5. Same colors, same cab configuration, and we're going to compare baseline engines, performance, fuel economy, pricing, different incentives right now, and then we're going to include what I would say is really probably more, not just the base on the website, but what people actually buy in these trucks. And let's see how they all stack up for pricing. This is going to be fun because I think a lot of people have preconceived notions of, man, this is a most expensive truck in the market. I think some people are going to be surprised the outcome of this. So let's do this. So for the sake of this video, I even tried to include the same colors. So what we've got up right now is the 2025 Ram website. And just so you know, guys, I drove across the whole state trying to find exact trucks on dealerships and line them all up. Trying to find a real apples to apples is almost impossible at the dealerships, even though they're all carrying a ton of inventory. And the purpose of this is I want you guys to get educated to look at, if you're in the market to buy or lease a truck, when you really compare apples to apples at the time of when this video was published, look at the incentives and look at what makes sense and then make your decisions from there. Just trying to save you money so you can get your best bang for the buck. All right, so we got a 2025 Ram 1500. I selected the Bighorn. I told you I wanted like the high value truck. This is the big runner, high volume. I went with white. I have not changed the wheel. This is standard. The only option I added, and you guys are going to see this here in a second, bucket seats. This has got the standard display, standard infotainment area, which is still really nice. Didn't add sunroof. No options have been added other than the sport appearance package, because I wanted to compare all kind of sporty-ish looking high value trucks that get you the body color, door handles, front bumpers, tailgate handles. You can see that's added, and then it forces you to at least take a level 1 Bighorn, which is pretty similar what I found to like kind of like a Ford 302A interior. You know, you get the inverter inside, heated steering wheel, heated front seats. It's a nice package truck, to be fair. And this right now, you can see none of these other options are added. This is the base 3.6 liter. Okay, now let's go to the summary here. Before we do anything further, we're at $50,380. There's a caveat. There's already some pricing, some discounts included in this. There's a lot of incentives, a national retail consumer cash, Great Lakes bonus cash. It's technically it was $54,635, but now as it stands right now, we're literally looking at $50,380. Okay, cool. Now let's go and see what a Silverado looks like. Okay, so now we've got the Silverado 1500. I went with the crew cab, 5.5 foot box, same cab configuration as the Ram 1500. I went specifically with the RST because the RST is kind of like a Bighorn with the sport appearance package. I wasn't able, if I go into this LT, let me just show you for this video. Let's go exterior. I can select the colors, Summit White. But if I go to trim packages, if I just want to have painted bumpers, I don't see a way to really do this. See Texas Edition, All-Star package, leathering package, XLT, Dark Essentials. I don't know, you guys can let me know down below if I'm missing something, but I'm not seeing a package that just gets me like a sport appearance package. So it kind of what I thought made sense to just jump to the RST. It doesn't really look like it's any difference in price. And the base motor is the Turbo Max, which is the 4-cylinder turbo. It's actually, I think the motor's kind of awesome. as long as you're not towing a lot. But if you're like most people, hardly using a half-ton truck, this motor is more than adequate. I've driven them. They've got great power. Now, let's go back to exterior, change this color back to white. You can see I have not changed anything. This is even, I will change this. Let's see, can I go to bucket seats? Yes, let's add to bucket seats. Oh, wow, is this gonna force us to, interesting. It's gonna force us into a different engine. No kidding. So if you want an RST with bucket front seats, it forces you to the V8. So keep that in your thought when you look at the pricing and all this stuff. But the GM interior, I think, is sweet. I really do like the GM interior. I think the dash layout looks really nice. I think overall, these guys have really done a great job, because in the past, I think that was one of the brands that suffered the most interior-wise, looks-wise, but I think they've really done a great job here. Options, I haven't selected anything, guys, other than what it's just forced me to. Just kind of briefly glance on this, but let's go to the summary here. We look at this, we are at $58,045. Now, let's see what this shows now for discounts. There we go, $58,000. MSRP is really $59,000, but there's a bonus cash option right now. So we're at $58,000. Now let's go to the F-150. So you can see we got 2025, once again, comparing white. Ford doesn't, to get an XLT, and you can see this is an XLT, once again, trying to compare equal trim. So 5.5-foot box, standard crew cab, cloth interior, very similar configuration. Now, white, let's see what engines we have. Now, this is where I feel like, comparing to the other ones, they give you a decent starting option. I think the 2.7, I've talked about this in many videos in the past. I think it's like a high value engine. I've been very impressed. I've towed a lot with these engines, city driving, highway. They get good power, good fuel economy, and they got a pretty good reliability. So if you look at this, that's a really good engine. This is 2-wheel drive. Let's make sure 4-wheel drive is selected. So now we got the 10-speed transmission. I've not selected any other options, guys. This is the standard XLT, a 301A. And then I did spend the $595 to get you the black appearance package, which gets you the gets rid of the chrome bumpers and gets you the painted front bumpers, which I was trying to compare painted bumpers, just kind of give you that little sportier look. No other option selected. We're at $56,585. Now, let's see what this pricing is all about. So some of this pricing you'll see includes some acquisition fees, but this is for leasing specifically. But generally speaking, so $56,585 for the F-150 2025. All right, for our last truck comparison, the 2025 Toyota Tundra SR5. Now, guys, I'm not a Toyota expert. I don't claim to be. So feel free to call me out, guys, if I'm saying something wrong. But I went with what their Crew Max with a 5.5-foot box. This looks to be equal configuration to the other 3 trucks. I went with the SR5 because from what I looked at the different trim packages, I won't exit this, it was the first one that kind of looked like cloth interior, decent, LED headlights, kind of like the other ones, and it had the painted bumpers and a cloth interior. I've not added any other options, and there's tons of great options in here. And I want to show you guys something that's really cool that Toyota offers. I just think this is just awesome. Check this out. 3-inch suspension lift from the factory. $4,000. I think that is so cool. And I saw one of these in person earlier this year, and I was amazed at how great this thing looked. For $4,000 to get a production TRD lift kit, pretty cool. I wish the others would offer that as well. I think most of them, maybe a trimmer gets you 1.5 inches, and I think the off-road package with Ram gets you something similar. Now, I think the Trail Boss, I think it's something similar too, but nobody's given a 3-inch lift kit from the factory. So we go to finish this build, we look at the pricing, $52,955. So when you look at this, it's like $52,955. This is the standard engine, the not hybrid engine in the Toyota for $52,955. We go to the Silverado, we're at $58,045. We go to the Ram, we're at $50,380. We go to the F-150, we're at $56,000. So the GM is the most expensive at $58,000. The Ford is second at $56,585. Toyota is third at $52,955. And then Ram at the $50,380. Now, I'm going to configure out how I think most people would order these trucks. Here's what I mean. If we look at most of the Ram 1500s, I don't think most guys are going for a natural aspirated V6. If you look at the specs on the 3.6, it's a good motor, but it's seriously lacking in performance versus the other engine options. Yes, does it have 305 horsepower? It sure does. But it's got 269 foot-pounds of torque. So you could say, well, the Ford 2.7 liter EcoBoost is only, let's see, what is power on that? It's 325 horse, so it's only 20 horse more. But the difference is the thing's making 100 foot-pounds of torque more, and it's doing it at a lower RPM, so it's a significant difference in performance. I think most of your Rams are going to be the Hurricane, and the Hurricane is a ripper. The performance numbers are great. We look at a GM truck. Do you think most guys that are ordering a GM truck are going to get the Turbo Max? There's going to be a lot of leases with the Turbo Max engine, and nothing against the Turbo Max. It's got good horsepower. It's got good torque. This is a good motor. But I would say more of your common engine is the 5.3. See, the horsepower bumps up a little bit. Torque actually goes down, but I think that's kind of more of your standard engine. And when we look at the Toyota, they don't even have a little tiny engine option. It's just two twin turbo engines. One is a hybrid and one is not. Before we jump into fuel economy, I'm going to go back to the Ram, and I want to change something here. Okay, I went in and made a change to the Ram that I think will be more, I'd say, equivalent to the other trucks, and I'd call it what the standard engine is going to be for this. And you notice the price went up a little bit. Only option I changed, right there, $2,700 upgrade over the 3.6 liter e-torque engine to get the Hurricane. Me personally, I think it's a no-brainer. I'd pay it all day long. Even though it is a lot of money, it's a lot more engine. But then we see the price jumps up pretty substantially to $53,075. Now let's do that same thing to the Silverado. Well, we already have the Silverado with the engine that I think makes most sense, and that's the $58,045. That seems to be, I think most of the trucks are going to be the 5.3 if I just look historically at what people like in these trucks. Now let's look at the F-150 and let's look at the engine options. Not going to add any other options, just going to talk about powertrain. So for me, and I look at the engine options here, you could get a 3.5 standard engine, standard 3.5 for $1,600 over, 5.0 for $1,600 over, or the hybrid for $3,500 over. I think the value is, this is definitely a high value standard option. But for my use, I'd go the 5.0 over the standard 3.5. I just like the new 5.0. I think it makes great low end torque, and it's really good on the highway for fuel economy versus the standard 3.5. If I did more city driving, I think this option would make more sense. If we want to compare V8 to V8, like the Silverado, look at the price, $58,245, $58,045. Very, very, very close. Go to the Toyota, that's still a lot cheaper. Now we get into the fuel economy. If we compare the base model trucks, 2.7 in the Silverado, 2.7 in the Ford, the 3.6 base V6 e-torque, and the Toyota Tundra with the standard 3.4 twin turbo, you can see the Ram with the 3.6 e-torque, according to EPA standards, has the best fuel economy, both city and highway. I don't know if I necessarily believe that, but at least that's what the EPA says. I don't know if real world would say that. I can tell you that I've driven all these trucks for 24 and 25 model, or not 25 model year, but 24 model year for sure. I have driven a 3.6 in a 2025, and it did not get 24 miles per gallon on the highway. I have driven a bunch of the Toyotas, and they actually do pretty decent on fuel economy. I don't think those numbers are out of question. Here's something that's interesting to me. When I compare the GM Turbo Max versus Ford's 2.7 EcoBoost, they're both 2.7 liter engines. But one's a 4-cylinder single turbo, and the other's a twin turbo V6, but the fuel economy is pretty big difference. 2 mile per gallon mixed, 1 in the city and 3 on the highway. And I bet that's not too far off if I had to guess. And once you put a trailer behind any of these with a turbo engine, kiss the fuel economy goodbye for sure, but the power is great. Now, this is what I would call is the more realistic engine options you're gonna see in these trucks. I didn't include the 5.0 here, but I'm gonna change this here in a second to show you guys because I can only do 4 at a time. But if we go all across the board, you could see the F-150 gets the best fuel economy, followed by the Ram with the new standard output Hurricane, and then tied with the Toyota Tundra, and then last place is the 5.0 or the 5.3 from GM. There's a big difference in fuel economy. If you look at these, it's kind of wild. Now, let's add in the F-150. Let's add in the F-150 with the 5.0 just for comparison, so you guys can see how much of a hit do you get on fuel economy. It's actually almost the same. Big difference still, a huge improvement over most of these other trucks on the highway other than the Ram. But when you're making big purchases like this, it's not all about fuel economy and it's not all about horsepower and torque. You're looking at long-term durability. You're looking at what's a better built truck, what fits your needs, what's the best bang for the buck. When we look at the pricing on all these trucks, at least at this trim level, man, they're really close, guys. I mean, you're talking $53,000. The Ram is by far the best deal right now, it seems like. Here's another thing to keep in mind. Generally speaking, the domestic manufacturers offer a lot more rebates and incentives than you get on a Toyota. So even when we see this Toyota as $52,955, I'd feel pretty comfortable in saying, I bet you the big three, you're going to get thousands more in rebates that are not on their websites that you wouldn't get on Toyota. Plus, I don't know if Toyota's changed their games, but last I checked, you can't order a Toyota. That's probably changed, and I hope it has for the consumer. But generally speaking, you can't order a Toyota truck. You have to just put your name on a list, and whatever comes with whatever options at the dealer, it just shows up at some amount of time. I'm not a big fan of that. I like to pick out what I want. So $53,000 for the Ram, $58,000 for the GM, $58,000 for the Ford, and $52,900 or $53,000 for the Toyota. They're all within a few $1,000s of each other. It's really, you got to ask yourself, what do you want? Who has the best dealer network? What manufacturer is going to give you the best reliability? And honestly, I think all of these suck for reliability right now. Everybody's dealing with huge problems. Toyota is going through a massive recall and engine replacements right now. And it's not just on the Tundra. Now I'm starting to hear issues about some of the others as well. GM's been having lifter failures. Ram's been having issues. The company's a mess right now. Ford's been having problems. None of these brands right now, I think, have a stellar regard for quality. They're all struggling in different areas right now, and some are pretty critical failures. So I hope you found this video helpful. The pricing was a lot closer than what I would have thought. I'd like to do this again at a higher trim level. I think you're going to start seeing a little more separation. But when we take half-ton trucks with a 5.5-foot box, middle to baseline engines, they're all within a few $1,000s of each other. So choose the truck you want and just go with it. Thanks for watching.